you pursued excellence for the longest time, playing for India, playing for Tamil Nadu, playing for South Zone Indian Railways, whoever you represented. You were the premier batter. You were the one everyone wanted to get out. But for a long time, as someone who broke into the Indian team and you had early success, you had your injuries, you came back, you stormed back, more like it. But ever since, say, 2014, or I'm not sure even if it was before that, but as someone who watched you for a long time, playing international cricket, while you looked like you owned the space, that you belonged there, it also in many ways looked like you were playing with this metaphorical axe over your head. You were pursuing excellence almost in the expectation that if I do not do well, something may happen, right? Under that sort of pressure and, in that kind of environment, how do you set all that aside and continue to pursue excellence and perform?
Thirushkamini, thank you so much for coming on the Inside Edge podcast. I've heard incredible things about you. I've actually seen you play in a few videos as well, and some of the numbers you've produced over a long, long time are mind-blowing. And it's so exciting to be able to speak to you. Ananya, as always, welcome. Thank you for coming on once again. And before we get stuck into the podcast, I will, as we do, throw to Ananya, who's going to give the listeners a little bit more of a background on yourself and some of these incredible stats that I just mentioned.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a bit of a combination of a Google introduction plus a diary intro to Tirush. So, MD Thirushkamini is an Indian cricketer who has represented the country in all three formats. She's a left-handed opening batter who debuted for India at the age of 16, playing close to 50 internationals in which she scored over 1,000 runs. In domestic cricket, she's represented Tamil Nadu and Indian Railways, winning multiple titles. Through her international and domestic career, Tirush has ticked off several historic achievements along the way. She became the first Indian woman to score a century in Women's World Cup matches when she smashed 100 against the West Indies in 2013. She boasts of the highest score by an Indian opener in Test match cricket, which is a mammoth 192 against South Africa in 2014. She is only the fourth Indian woman to amass 10,000 runs in senior domestic cricket, which is something she did only a few months ago. She is the only female cricketer to win the BCCI Player of the Year award across both junior and senior categories, so no one else has done that before. And now, while she is plying her trade in domestic cricket for Tamil Nadu, she's also working as a broadcaster. Now, this is Tirush from the internet. Tirush, from my memory, is a player I think who, in many ways, was well ahead of her time. She was a powerful striker who loves hitting boundaries. She pummeled the ball, throwing all her weight into every shot, and I am proof of that because she's chipped nine in my teeth. She was scary to bowl to, but even scarier to stand at silly point or short leg to. That mighty backlift would often have us jumping for cover even before she touched the ball. She's has always been a very fierce competitor, hated losing so much that sometimes she would punish her teammates. But I think that's also because she expected just as much effort from them as she did from everyone else. So, Tirush, welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you, and I'm equally happy to interact with you again.
Thank you so much, Ananya. That's a wonderful introduction. And I'm really sorry. Until recently, I didn't know that one of my shots had chipped a teeth off. But I'm really, really sorry about that. And it's so good to connect with you. And also, when the last time I had met you, there were so many good things that you had said. And it is also good that you get reminded about your early playing days. So that way, I'm so excited and looking forward for a great conversation.
Brilliant. And Ananya, I love the way you did that, where you said if you look on the internet, this is what you'll read and all the cool things you've achieved there. But it's the diaries and the things that are in between that we really connect on. And it's funny that you mentioned that there's like what you mentioned is, oh, sorry, Ananya, if I chip your tooth, and you're not really talking about all the numbers and the 10,000 runs and all the incredible things. And it's these deeper elements that we tend to connect to when we look back on what we've achieved and the relationships that we've built as well. And that's where we kind of want to get into today. So, Thirush, I'm going to ask you 3 questions and you get to choose which one you want to answer. But each of these questions do access that thing that's a little bit deeper. So it does elicit a little bit of vulnerability, but what we want to do is understand what the journey was actually like for you, and other people will see how successful you've been but not know the stories that you and the hardships that you went through as well. So the 3 questions, and you can just choose one of these to start with, is so the first one is, what do you see when you look in the mirror? The second one is, can you describe a time when you felt like you didn't belong, and how did that impact you? And the third one is, what took you too long to learn?
I think I'll go with the third option. Like what took me really long to learn and probably unlearn also. So probably I think I'd like to speak more on that.
Awesome. Sounds good. Go for
it. So the one thing that which I really took long to learn was, or even accept to myself, is there's always a definition for success. What the society has, or your teammates would have, or the world would pursue what success is. But for me, what happened is, in this course of the career that I had, like a really long career, I was always beaten up by things which I felt when I was not able to match up to the standards of what the society had set for success. Sometimes I used to crumble to it, and I felt that I was not able to live up to those expectations. But right now, the one real good thing that I've had is I'm able to figure out and be aware of what is success. I mean, the definition of success in my eyes, and being able to live up to it consistently. When I say success in my eyes, I do not accept mediocrity. I'm trying to keep. I'd probably say I'd want to stay more evolved and keep evolving every year, being a better version of myself individually and as a player as well. Because why do I talk about being evolving myself personally, is because I feel what you are as a person has a lot to do with your game, because it's always interconnected. So the person that I am off the field is somehow derives some kind of probably I'd say influence on the field. So that way I feel this is one thing that I really really enjoy, the way that I have transformed, and the art of defining success in my own terms is something that I've learned, and I'm completely enjoying it.
That has made me jump up in my chair as soon as you said the words, the definition of success, because that's kind of the starting point of, I think, most people's transformations. Now, what I'd love to know is, what was your definition of success in the early stages, and how has that evolved to where you are now?
Initial stages, I felt the definition of success was probably getting a lot of runs, and being best version of myself, being a better batter, and you need to top the charts, being the highest run getter, and when you take statistically sound very good. So that was definition of success for me. And also parallelly, I would also say that getting selected in the I mean, playing the highest level, and wanting to do well at the international level, these were the definitions of success. But if you ask me what is a success for me at this point, is enjoying my game, and to be able to dominate in your very own terms, because I have certain goals that I've set for my own self. And when I have set goals for myself, I also mean that when I set goals in a manner where it does not affect my team, but it also enhances my team, wherein because at the age that I am now, because I'm 34 right now, uh, just thinking about myself is not something that I want to do. There are so many other things that I want to do personally. If you ask me, I want to make sure that my whole cricket team, that is my whole Tamil Nadu team, the team that I'm playing for at this point, I want to build a very good I'd say like a work environment, like a team culture, because I feel for the generations to come after, whatever I've learned, I want to make sure that I build a right culture for the team. And also, when I say that I build the right culture, I want to make sure that each other keep inspiring us, because I'd want to inspire my own teammate. Likewise, I'd also expect another teammate to inspire me in a space where I would require inspiration. So this is the kind of work environment that I want to build, and also want to keep improving with the in the modern day cricket. You keep seeing that the game keeps evolving on a everyday day to day basis. So I want to keep up with that, and so this is something. If you have to ask me, how do I round it up? This is how I would put it up in words.
Okay, Tirush, I have to ask, because this whole definition of success, you were, I guess, success in societal terms. I don't know, in like the way you defined it earlier in your career. Uh, you were successful in that sense from a very early age. You were like a prodigy in many sense. In I guess in every sense, you debuted for the country at 16. You toured Pakistan under 21 India when you were 15. You're playing senior cricket when you were 11. So that is by definition a prodigy. I guess how along the way did that usual definition of success change? At what point were you able to, I guess, separate Tirush the person from Tirush the cricketer in terms of my worth is not the runs I score? Because I guess, as a young person, when you start to believe that at a very young age and almost start to live that at a very young age, at what point were you able to separate that? Um,
I'd say like there has been like moments in my life and my career which has helped me get to the space where I'm in. Initially, what had happened is I had a major breakthrough at 2013, like the 100 that you were talking about. Before that, I had an injury which happened at 2010. I had a knee injury while playing against England, because of which I had to be out of cricket for like a couple of years. So that taught me a lot about getting back into the international circuit, and what it took for me to, I mean, the toil that I had to take for me to get back to where I was, because it was not very easy for me at that point. And it was the things that I found it very difficult was it's just not about your physical strength, also the mental strength. And especially when you have left a void in the team, for you to get back to that space takes a lot more effort. So that was something that has helped me understand what it is, what it takes for to lose something and again get back. But probably for me to come to a conclusion, or uh, get to my own thinking and understand what success is for me, happened after the 2017. Because at that point what I felt was, during 2017 I had a lot of expectation to play the 2017 World Cup. In fact, it came as a surprise that I was not part of the squad, simply because I was in the scheme of things, and also I was among, I mean, in the cycle which led into the World Cup. So probably I had a lot of expectation. In fact, there was a lot of preparation that had gone personally for me heading into the World Cup. But not being part of the World Cup came as a big surprise to me. Initially, I was very angry about how I perceived everything. I didn't take it very lightly. I was very angry. I was very sad. I didn't know how to respond to everything. Then the next year, I again told myself I can do it again, like what I did in 2013. But then later, what happened is I was not finding a lot of joy, because I felt like I was pressurizing myself too much, where it got to a point where I felt like I was not enjoying, and I was living or playing in others' terms, which is something that I didn't want to do. Because at when you've reached a certain age, at this age, I felt like there are so many opportunities for me. Like you also had mentioned that I'm a broadcaster. I can get into multiple ways that I can contribute to the game. So what happened is, for me to continue to do the most hardest thing in cricket is to play. For me to do that, and also not getting paid as much as an international cricketer, because a domestic cricketer earns very less in India, especially a senior cricketer. So for me to make that decision, I felt I will have to be in the best space of mind. So I sat down thinking about what went wrong and why is that I was not able to enjoy something that I really, really love the most. Then that's when I was able to get to this whole uh, ideology that I'm talking to you about, which I think I'm living by it. And so far, I I have completely transformed the way I pursue and perceive the game.
That's awesome. And one question, if I play devil's advocate for a second, if I'm a 20-year-old with big dreams and my definition of success is, well, if I score these runs, then I get a now WPL contract, I'll earn lots of money, I'll play for India, that's going to make me happy, right? So I'm going to do everything I can to get to that. But what you're saying is that you were on that pursuit, you were making runs, but obviously curveballs hit you. Like you're batting really well, you're expecting to play in the World Cup in 2017, but then you don't get selected. That's completely out of your control. So if we have as that young kid, they're saying, well, I just want to score runs. But I suppose on the other side, you're saying that some of these things are out of your control, and having a different definition, a more broader definition of success will actually, one, help you get through get you through those, but then also find more joy in playing the game and find more joy in living your life, which is extremely important. Now, what I want to dive a little bit deeper into is that the cultural side of things. So you said that the culture's expectations of you made things really hard as well. Can you talk a little bit more about whether it's team culture or even Indian culture as a whole, and how did that make things difficult for you when you were dropped, or when you were pursuing these things, especially as you started to get older?
I think it was just not how the society perceived the way uh, I was going about things, but I also think the standards that I set for me, because end of the day, one thing I live by is I'd like to set some goals for me every year. That is a principle that I've been living by, because I'm a very ambitious as a person. So for me, heading into a season or starting of a year, I set some goals for me and I try to live by it. So when the times that when I'm not able to do it, what happens is deep inside I feel like these insecurities and the doubt starts creeping in, whether I'm really good enough or am I doing the right things. And also parallelly, there are so many people, like it or not, they start giving you a lot of opinions without really knowing what's the story. So there were a lot of, at that point I didn't have the mental clarity or the maturity to handle uh, the way I'm doing it at this point. Because if somebody comes and asks me the reason behind the reason behind me not being able to get into a WPL, I have a far more better answer than the same question if it was posed to me like 6 years, 7 years back. My answers were very vague. There were moments I used to say that I'm still recovering from an injury and I'm still trying to get back into the squad, because I felt very ashamed to uh, meet my very own people, because I really didn't understand how to face them. But right now, I've understood that what are we're talking about this controllables and uncontrollables. Probably I didn't really know the actual terms for it, but I could confidently say that I was acting in a manner which was very similar to working on my controllables, because I was thinking about the things that I can do to make my life better is what I felt I was doing. Because in the modern day we keep giving everything a term, like keep saying that we have so many principles and ideologies and terms to define the way we are living. Because at that point I really didn't know what how to term the way I was living. But some way I felt I just wanted to improve my life, because I didn't like the way I was blaming my own self for things that were out of my control. So that I think is the sense of maturity that the game has taught me, just not in terms of my game, but even as a person, the way I respond to a situation has gotten so much better. Because of which, probably I'd say 5 years before, uh, I have got the experience of playing for the India in the one of the biggest tournaments, like playing the World Cup, the Asia Cups. I've played multiple Asia Cups and multiple World Cups. But if you ask me at this point, I am enjoying the cricket at my, like, I am able to play the game from my heart, which is far more content than what it was like 5 years back.
Brilliant. That's so cool to hear. And I think environment plays such a big role in this, right? Because you've spoken so much about the resilience that you've shown and how you continue to grow. So you're really ambitious. You always set goals for yourself. And when you're ambitious and set goals, when you don't achieve them, it hurts so much more. So just like your batting, where Ananya said that you pick that bat up and you're ready to hit the ball, and you're so far ahead of you're probably so far ahead of your time in terms of having that attitude to playing cricket, like the courage. I'm going to pick my bat up and I'm going to whack this ball. It sounds like it's really reflected in the way you go about what you want in life too. Well, I'm going to set goals and I'm going to go after this, knowing that you might fail, knowing that there's so much out of your control that you, in a game like cricket, you probably will fail, but you still set the goals and you still get better. But from my experience, and I know speaking to Ananya, that the culture you're in or the team you're in makes such a big difference in how you can actually get up. And even if you fail, go again. Now, you mentioned one thing that you're doing with Tamil Nadu is you one of your big goals is to create a culture and an environment there that's really great for these youngsters to thrive through. What are some of the things that you really focus on? When I say great culture, it gets thrown around all the time, right? What does that actually mean for you?
One thing that I have learned in this long career that I've had is I've been part of multiple teams. One is obviously playing for the Indian team. Then I've also been part of the zonal squad, and I have attended multiple NCA camps and ZCA camps, and then also one other I'd say a life changing experience is being part of Indian Railways. So that is a completely a different work culture. And again, playing for Tamil Nadu in different phases of women's cricket. So that again has a different work culture. So I emphasize the need of having the right work culture is because I feel like there are just not 15 minds alongside the support staff and the amount of coaches that you work in a year. They are close to like 40, 50 minds that you're going to operate with. So to be able to figure out what works for you and have a very healthy discussion with your coaches or your fellow teammates, just walking up to them and telling them this is not working for me, this is not letting me uh, perform to my fullest. I mean, to be very precise, probably creating a right environment where each and every player are able to communicate and express themselves. Because I feel in India, there's always a lot of barrier where uh, the athletes find it very difficult to walk up to their coaches or their teammates in telling them this is not working for me. Because in my initial days, there were some things I was finding it very difficult to adapt to. For example, when I played for Indian Railways, the work culture was completely different. The environment was very different. I used to find it, the initial few years were very, very challenging for me. At that point, what I felt was one thing that kept me going was probably Indian Railways operated in a manner where it was always about uh, winning the championship. So the goal was very common, but on a personal front, there were so many changes that I had to adapt to. We might think that these are very small, but if you look at from a broader angle, I feel like the smallest changes also can impact your mental health. Because for me, what I felt was, yes, we were running towards a common goal. Like we were about 20 people in the team. The common goal was to win the championship. But parallelly, what happened is we all came from a completely different cultural background. And when we're talking about Indian Railways, the facilities that were provided in terms of um, um, playing were always like we used to get one of the best facilities. We always used to get center wicket, and obviously we were working with the best coaching staff. All that was there, but parallelly, what happened is for us to stay away from family for a longer period of time. Like we used to have constant camp close to like 2 months, 3 months camps when we were always away from home and again training day in and day out like 3 sessions a day. All this was like very challenging, taking a toll on me personally. I can't speak for the others, but for me personally. And also, what happened is home is always home. I mean, there were not opportunities for me to go back and find some comfort. So the railways was never a place for comfort. It was always a place for excellence. I mean, that's how they operated. So that way, I think. Though I have learned so much from the Indian Railways as a setup, um, likewise, I also feel the Indian team has taught me so much, like how we need to respect each other's cultural differences. Because initially, what happened is I don't speak very good Hindi, but so for me to communicate with my own teammate was very, very difficult. The way they communicated, the tone at which they used to speak to me, I found it very difficult. So it taught me how there could be cultural differences and the communication. I mean, the tone in which they take to communicate does not really mean they are being very rude to you. It also means that they're just trying to say something, but they have a very different dialect, which probably I never understood back then. So these were the small things, you like it or not, will impact when you are playing a team sport, which I feel right now is something with a lot of experience that I've taken. I'd want to make sure that to be able to understand one another, respect one another, and create a space for communication is something that I think I'd want to build in my very own team.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a very straightforward question. And I don't know if you have an answer to this, but how will you go about doing something like that? Because it's great to say this is what I want to do and this is how I want a team to look. But how will you go about creating that culture where you feel like everyone is learning, you're pursuing excellence, but you're also feeling comfortable, you're communicating well? How does that happen?
I think the first step is you obviously have to be in the place where you're able to communicate these things. Like if you're a captain, then things are so much more easier. Or if you're a head coach, you hold some kind of position, then the thing that I'm trying to say will be so much more easier. Just in case if I'm not the captain or the coach of the team, then it becomes a little bit more tricky here, because as a senior player you'll obviously have certain limitations, because the person who's trying to lead the side at that point will have a completely different mindset. Especially you'll have a lot more younger girls who would be leading the side, because I'll be the senior most in my team. So I'm expecting somebody who will be far more younger who would be leading the side. So they'll have a completely very different ideology. So then that becomes a bit of a challenge. So I think if I'd want to execute whatever I have in mind, to be in some kind of position in the team will really help and make the things more easier, I feel.
Okay, okay, great. So I'm just going to veer off topic slightly because you mentioned this a lot, this whole pursuit of excellence thing, right, Trish? Um, you pursued excellence for the longest time, playing for India, playing for Tamil Nadu, playing for South Zone Indian Railways, whoever you represented. You were the premier batter. You were the one everyone wanted to get out. But for a long time, as someone who broke into the Indian team and you had early success, you had your injuries, you came back, you stormed back, more like it. But ever since say 2014, or I'm not sure even if it was before that, but as someone who watched you for a long time playing international cricket, while you looked like you owned the space, that you belonged there, it also in many ways looked like you were playing with this metaphorical axe over your head. You were pursuing excellence almost in the expectation that if I do not do well, something may happen, right? Under that sort of pressure and, in that kind of environment, how do you set all that aside and continue to pursue excellence and perform?
Rightly mentioned, Ananya, because I felt uh, if I have to look back at that episode, I felt like probably if I had a bit of more support from my own management, probably I felt things would have been even more easier for me to express myself, because I always felt I had to curb myself and be very sure about how I go about my game. Because what happens is, every single time when I had to go play a game, I felt that I always wanted to only focus on things that I were really good at and very confident. Probably I was not able to take those risks that I wanted to. And because as a player, everybody will know each of their strengths and weaknesses. At that point, what I felt was I only could keep exploring or keep repeating the strengths that I always had, because there were some things over the years that I was able to improve myself. I'd say wanted to, I wouldn't say improve, probably widen my game a bit more, like add in a little more shots. But because of this whole thing of not uh, having those a little bit of confidence that I will get on to play a few more games for India, gave me this constant pressure of wanting to do well every single opportunity that I get. So, in case if I were not able to do those one or two opportunities, then I used to beat myself very hard, because at that point, when I am amidst of all of these things, I found it very difficult to find the right answers. Because in today's world, we feel that there's always so much help that is provided. Like, for example, there's so much data that is available, and you have so many very good coaches around who are always willing to help you in the different aspects of the game. But few years back, what happened is there were not a lot much of data that was available. For example, if I were taking on an Australian side, if I were to face a bowler, I I wouldn't really know what the bowler would be bowling. So it was the experience that I had in the game without any data. And So these were, I felt like, were the thoughts that were running in my mind at that point, which made it very, very very difficult for me, because probably I felt with a little bit of uh, confidence, I felt I could have expressed myself much more than
Don't worry, carry on.
I am sorry.
No, it's fine.
Don't stress.
So yeah, so this is like something that I felt probably would have helped me become a far more better player, because I felt there were so many things that I wanted to explore as a batter, which I was not able to do back then, but whereas I'm able to do it right now. So right now, like I mentioned earlier, I am enjoying this phase very much. So this emotional clarity and the maturity that I'm having has really helped me. But if you ask me, this whole thing of this, where the constant pressure of not having the space to fail has really put a lot of stress on me on a mental level and on my game as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting how often these common themes come up where we say an endpoint of, okay, I want to become the best cricketer I can be, right? What does that mean? Let's work backwards. And most people go and say, okay, I'm going to training camp train 3 times a day for 2-3 months, hit thousands and thousands of balls. I'm going to do all of the physical things that help me get better. But not a lot of people are talking about how do we unlock potential through the mental side, the emotional side, and the spiritual side. And for me, that spiritual side is, do I feel like I belong here? Do I have the space to fail? And can I actually trust that if I go 2-3 innings without scoring a run, I'm going to be backed in for the fourth? And the chances are, because I'm really passionate about this and working hard, on the fourth, I'll probably come good. And come good in a big way. But when we don't have the space to fail and we don't have a like that culture that really backs you in as a human, so where you're allowed to speak up as well and not feel like you're shut down, then you're not going to get the best out of yourself. But from my experience, and even now, it's definitely getting better. But there are so many youngsters out there that I've been working with, and I know Ananya has lots of touch points with as well, that are still going, oh, I failed 2-3 times in a row. I'm going to go hit more balls. I'm going to train harder. What would be your advice to a young player coming through that might be struggling with some of these things, but is unable to see like mental, emotional, spiritual, friendships, the impact of all of that on performance? Like, it's not just fluffy stuff. Like, can you explain a bit further how important that is to transferring to on-field success? If that makes sense.
Well, I think one of the most important thing that we all think is having a lot more practice is going to make me a better cricketer. Is the I mean, they keep saying if you don't do something right, just keep doing it over and over again so that you're able to master the skill. So that is something that we've been taught. But what I believe in is if for a player to do well on the field, it's just not about how much of skill that you acquire, but it's also what has to do a lot with your mental strength, the physical strength that you have. When I say physical strength, it's not the, again, I'm going back to uh, not the standards that the society set for somebody to be physically good enough to play the game, but the physical fitness that is required to achieve the kind of success that is needed in the game. Like what I meant is the mental aspect and the physical aspect has to aid you to be a better version of yourself. That's exactly what I feel physical strength is all about. So if a player is failing, the one thing that I always do or advise a youngster to do is to understand why are they failing. Because one, it could be because of a tactical error, or it could be a technical error, or probably something that has to do with the preparation, or it also could be an error in judgment. There could be so many reasons as to why the player is failing. So unless a player is able to understand what is the area of concern, I don't see the point of going and training regularly. Because for me, at some point, what I felt was there were days where, like, I was not able to. I also have had my share of lean patch. So when I go through a lean patch, there were times when I used to go back to the nets and bat like for 2 hours together so that I'm able to get my form back. But there have also been moments when I'm not doing well. I just take that time off. There have been moments when I've just taken a quiet long walk, just trying to understand what is not working. Because it could also be sometimes in the mental space that you're in, because you're just so absorbed into the process that you don't really start noticing what is actually happening in the game. Because when it comes to um, doing well on the field, it is, yes, a practice, your training, your preparation, all that is important, but it is all the things that are preparing you to do well on the field. But when it comes to the on field, it is all about your decision making ability at that point. And the and it's also about how well you're able to handle the pressure, and read the game really quickly. So there are multiple aspects to it, but if you ask me to just put it down in one word, then one line, then probably I'd say the real key to getting back into the scheme of things, or getting back into the um, space of against to, I mean to the road to the success, is to identify the problem, work on it, and then see what I mean also, and also work on the working methodology. There could also be different ways one would like to operate, figure out what's the right working methodology for you, and then move forward.
Okay. Next question from me, because you spoke about being in a good mental space, and you have to be able to be making the right decisions, and be able to separate what's happening off the field with what you're doing on the field. As someone who competed a lot against you, you seem to be someone who was always in control of the space she was in. Like, regardless of what was happening off the field, what you were going through, or what was anything, you were able to make wonderful decisions while you were batting. How did that, was that something that came naturally to you to be able to separate the two spaces, or was that something that you worked consciously on from a young age?
I wouldn't say that is something that came naturally to me, but I would say that the situations that were presented to me in my life had made me become who I am today. For example, like there were a lot of moments where I felt like I could have succumbed to it, because of which my career would have taken a dip. But at that point, I felt like the only way to keep going, or keep moving forward, is to have just one goal in my head, because I've always been that kind of person. Probably that is also has been my nature, is like I can only focus on one thing at one time. I can't multitask. So so that way what happens is also that being my nature, and also the situation when it had presented itself. So all combined together, I felt has helped me in being the more composed person that you're talking about, because I don't think if you ask me deep inside, there are a lot of thoughts that keeps going inside. Well, the lot of questions that I keep asking myself, but from the outside it looks like I'm a very composed as a person. But also I think a lot of credit to the people around me, the right support system that I had, because they kept making things so much more easier for me in spite of the so much adversities that were happening around me. So that way I feel like I also owe a lot to the good people that have been around me. And when I say that I have reached wherever I am today, I don't think it's just a one person's journey, but a lot of people who have instilled their belief in me, and who have sacrificed themselves, prioritized me over their well-being. So I feel like it's a lot. It's just that though I may be the face of whatever I've done, but there are a lot of people behind me who has genuinely helped me climb the ladder.
And Thirish, you mentioned there all the people around you, and it's so important. One thing that stood out to me, and Nanya mentioned that you've got to be one of the only players who's continued to play after getting married. And I know that's something that's not super common, even here in Australia, in India. It's not overly common. And I'd actually love to know from your perspective, what are some of the beliefs or the ways of thinking of those people around you that have allowed you to say, hey, I'm allowed to pursue this cricket career and get married and be a normal human. Like, it's not either or. And it's a unique mentality, and I think it's one we need more of, if I'm honest. And can you just talk a little bit more about those people around you and how they allow the both and mentality?
I mean, thank you very much for asking that question because not many people ask me that. So that's an area that has never been touched on up until now. So when the thought of getting married came into my head, initially I took a lot of time because I knew it was a very rare scenario where I know a lot of people had to give up on their career so that they were able to have a very normal married life. So initially I told myself that I kept pushing my marriage a little longer so that I can keep playing without uh, being able to, I mean, without having to face the world where you have to answer these the most difficult questions. Then I told myself, okay, now it's time, because my husband said enough is enough. You can't run away anymore, you have to get married. So I said, okay, let's get married. But what is more challenging, I feel, is at this age is it's not about balancing things with my family and my career, but I feel like I don't have uh, a lot of role models in a team sport. I'm talking even at the world space, because you see so many people, like especially when you take male athletes, you see them pursuing the game until like a 39, or you can even take a Mahendra Singh Dhoni who's playing at 40, and you can also see so many athletes like male athletes who are able to play until like a 40 or a 41. And yeah, it is difficult, very difficult, but you see them do that. But when it comes to female cricketers, you don't see a lot of them pursuing the game after certain age. So I was telling myself that I wanted to experience and explore what it is like to be an athlete, like a competitive athlete, a professional cricketer at this age, because this is not something a lot of them have explored. So probably if you ask me what would I want to tell a 20-year-old, that is something that I've experienced. So probably I'll have so much stories to tell them. But if tomorrow, like 10 years down the line, if someone's going to come and ask me what do I do in my fag end of the career, so probably I shouldn't be like, okay, I haven't experienced it. Wait, let me think about it and get back to you. So probably I told myself this is something that I want to experience, and I want to know what it is like to be a female athlete to pursue at this age. And only a handful of them make it in a team sport, because I've seen so many athletes who I have seen as a role model. Like you can take a Serena Williams who had a very long career, but again that's an individual sport, so they can take the break, they can have the leverage for them to come back and compete. But when it comes to a team sport, the minute you take a break for a year, somebody comes into your place and you replace, and again when you come back into the system, then it gets very difficult. So this is something that I told myself that I want to experience, and also want to understand how it feels to do this.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think we need more of it. And you said you don't have many role models. Well, the cool thing that you're doing, Thirush, is that you're becoming that role model for a lot of people. And I think as we see women's sport, especially cricket, become more and more um, professional, there's now the financial reason to keep playing as well. And that was probably the change here in Australia, where we had people retiring at about 30, but then as soon as you can actually make a full career out of it, people are playing longer. And we're starting to see, like our Players Association, if you want to have a child and come back, they'll automatically renew your contract for the next year. You get all sorts of support. It's not just support for batting and bowling or even psychology, but there's support for, hey, what do you want to do in terms of kids? Because obviously it is a little bit different in terms of we have to men in that we have a bit more of a biological clock, and that's the reality of it. If you do want kids, so that there's all these sorts of conversations that are happening in female sport, but they don't go any further without people like you who are actually at the front of that saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to get married, or and I can still play, or I want to keep playing with joy and I'm going to help the next generation. It all works together. It's not like these silos that the old school mentality is all about. And yeah, I don't really have a specific question there, if I'm honest. I just think it's so cool and inspiring.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions. do have one thing to ask though, and I think last time I put Gohar on the spot with this question, so I'm going to put you on the spot with this question as well. Considering your style of play, and considering, power player, high boundary percentage, all that, now the way you see the game evolve, you see the opportunities that are there for young players in that same mold. Do you, because you're human, and I know you said you're in a much better space, you're happy with where your game is, do you ever feel, what if I were, say, 7 years younger? Is there ever a sense of I don't want to call it resentment, but maybe a bit of resentment or regret that, maybe if I were around now, things would have been different?
Surprisingly, I have no regret, Tananya. Probably if you had asked me like a couple of, no, not couple of years, probably 4 years back, then I would have had a different answer. But right now, I have absolutely no regret. But if one thing I felt I would have wanted more is probably the access to the advancement of the sport, because that is something that is really something that I connect with, because I feel like I am an athlete who my driving force is my data. Like I do a lot of things off the field. Like I rely a lot on the data. Then I like to converse about the sport, and I would want to converse a lot about the game. I would like to have a lot more perspectives. So this is something I feel like that was not possible like 7 years back. But right now, I feel like there are so many people who are talking about the game, and there are new perspectives that are born every single day. So the way you look at the sport has changed completely. So if at all, if you ask me, do I have a regret? No, I don't. But if you ask me, uh, what would a 26-year-old Thirush Kamini or a 20-year-old Thirush Kamini would have wanted or would have loved it is definitely the advancement of technology in the sport is something that I would thoroughly enjoyed and connected with, which would have in return helped me become a much, much more better player.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. I never thought about it in terms of the increase in access that people have now as well. But I think there's Kamini, you've been awesome. You've almost, I'd go as far to say, have left an amazing legacy on everything that you've done so far. And I still think there's a lot in the tank, whether it's, I think you'd make an unbelievably great coach, or commentary, all the ways that you keep giving back to the game. And that's not to say you can't keep working them, and you never know. You just never know in this game where you'll end up. So I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I can see that you really live that definition of success where it is about joy and how can you help the people around you, how can you continue to enjoy the way you play your cricket. And it's really an inspiration for people of all ages and in all walks of life too. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm super excited to continue to watch your journey in and away from the game.
Thank you very much, Bhavi and Ananya, because this has been really, really good. And to be very honest, the one thing that I enjoyed during this conversation is generally when people talk about interview and all of that, the question has always been very something that it is very scheduled, and you don't really prepare for any kind of an interview. But this interview has also given me a lot more perspective, which I told you in a little bit earlier also, which gives you a lot more perspectives, and it opens up certain thoughts in your head. So I completely enjoyed, and thank you very much for the recognition, because every single appreciation and the recognition will do a great deal of good, just not for me, for people around. So that way, thank you very much, Bhavi and Ananya. Ananya, I haven't spoken much with you, but very recently I had the opportunity of talking with you, and you're incredible. And another good thing that I've noticed about you is no matter what phase of life I am in, you've always seen me. Um, you've always had that courage, or the heart to come and say good things about me to me on my face, which we don't see in today's world, because it is all very situational. they just the thoughts and everything keeps changing. So that way I feel like you've been very, very genuine with your words, and speaking to you the last time and this time has given me great deal of confidence. So thank you very much, and it was incredible. And this interview that, or the podcast that we call, was something very different, and it was not very easy to answer those questions. You did put me in a spot a couple of times, but it's definitely a very good experience for me, and wishing you guys all the very best. And I really hope that you're able to get a lot more people, and able to get a lot more versions which could inspire the women in the society.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your words as well. And thank you, Ananya. Everything Thirushkamini said about you is 100% true. You're both amazing women, and I hope to continue to do some work together for a long time.
Thank you. I would say something else, but maybe that's not. I think the way Tirush finished it is awesome. And like I told you last time, I think I have this thing of building up people in my head, and I have memories from like the very first time I saw you in Jamshedpur being like a very strict 15-year-old captain of an under 16 team. But yeah, just building on that. I have a lot of very, very good memories of you. So of course I'm going to say wonderful things about you. But yeah, like Bhavi said, just keep doing what you're doing, and you're awesome, I think.
Thank you very
I've
much.
been inspired, and we will continue to be inspired. So yeah.
Thank you very much, because I always feel that women need to keep inspiring one another, because those small talks of encouragement and appreciation does so many good. Probably you wouldn't know what good you do to me, but deep inside it makes me feel good and reminds me of the things that I've done in the past. So because I always feel it's very important for everybody to remember the good things that they keep doing to one another. So thank you very much. Truly grateful.
No
Thanks.
worries.